Hey, Ron Newcomb here with the Indie Coach Podcast. I'm here with my new buddy, Jeff Elkins, and we are going to be talking all things story. So, Jeff and I were recently introduced, and I always love doing these kind of impromptu, since we're going to get to know one another, take advantage of it, and look through the lens of you, the watcher, and invite you into a conversation so that you can glean as much information and knowledge as I do. Everything that I've seen of Jeff so far online looks extremely impressive. So I would love for you to be
Thanks, man.
Jeff. Absolutely. I would love for you to be able to kind of give the audience and myself a little bit of your origin story. How did you get started into this whole thing?
Oh my gosh. Anxiety, I guess. I was working nonprofits. Came out of college, going straight into nonprofit work. Did that for like 15 years, and I was working I would take ones that were kind of broken and help them uh fix themselves, just kind of guide them through the process of fixing themselves. I was in a really stressful one. I was in a meeting, I started ranting, and the one of the old guys who ended up being a longtime mentor of mine was like, "Hey Jeff, why don't you go write all this down and give it to us in written form, and that way we can think more on it." Looking back now, I realize he just wanted the meeting to end. But so I did. I went and wrote it down, and I ended up writing this. I started it off with like an allegory, like the thing I was trying to talk to them about. And man, I had so much fun writing that like short story and it felt so good. I was like, oh, I gotta
Hmm.
keep doing this. So I spent a year writing a short story every night. It's a lot of fun. I launched a literary magazine with like online literary magazine with about seven other writers, which was great. And then I pivoted to novels. I'm 13 novels in the can now, which is awesome.
Wow.
And I haven't had a hit yet, but any second now. And then last year, I pivoted to screenplays, and cranked out three last year. Queried one of them, got some, interest, but it didn't really go anywhere. But I'm still new to this world and trying to figure out what it looks like. But
Yeah,
yeah.
man, it's not easy to navigate, but you know what, Jeff? Nothing is, right? I mean,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah,
it's
you gotta go for it in all directions. So good for you, man. So do you mostly do nonfiction and fiction?
no, mostly fiction.
Mostly
Um,
fiction. Okay.
yeah, the 13 novels are all fiction. I started 5 years ago. I was like, well, so I have a weird day job right now. I've had it for 12 years. I train people. I lead the production team for a training company that trains people to how to have difficult conversations. So we
Mm,
do like suicide prevention work. We do like
mm,
interview and interrogation work for law enforcement. We do a lot of like addiction recovery work, um, and we build in essence a like video game with a live actor. So we specialize in artificial emotion and it feels like you're on a Zoom call when you're talking to
mm.
our character, but the character is played by a live actor. Not a live actor, or by a real actor, not an AI actor. They're not live. It's a game. But
Yeah.
yeah, so uh I was that's when I kind of got into I was doing that job, and it's required me to kind of think of new ways to write dialogue and how dialogue works, and like how emotions work and how transitions work and that kind of stuff. And so I wrote I was talking to a friend who is also a big indie author, and I was talking to him about like, hey, I have all this weird knowledge. I want to do something with it. I really like coaching people. I love helping people. It's kind of one of the things that drives me. And so he was like, well, you should take what you do for your day job and apply it to fiction and
Hmm.
help people write better dialogue. So
Hmm.
the Dialogue Doctor was born. That was like a little over 5 years ago, and since then I've coached over 400 authors one on one in helping them like finish their novels improve their dialogue and characterization. There's a community we run that I really adore, that I love, and we meet twice a month. So we actually have a meeting tomorrow night where we talk about what we're all working on, ask questions. I do master classes. I've got another book coming out I've published a couple books. I've got another one coming out. It's supposed to come out in February, hopefully April. Uh, about how emotions work and how you can through the manipulation of the text on the page change your reader's emotional journey. So yeah, it's fun, and it is a side hustle that's slowly taking over my life,
Mm,
and is in a good way, I think. But
yeah.
yeah,
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 no, the emotion. Have you heard of a guy named I think it's David J. Phillips? He is known for for public speaking, but he did a couple TED Talks that went really viral. And
yeah.
so he talks about, the chemical cocktail in your
Hmm.
brain and it how he can, through his public speaking, work that through you. And
Yeah.
it's really fascinating. I'm sure you don't know this, but I actually was a police officer for about 6 years. So,
No way.
yeah,
I
so
didn't
the
know that.
whole, yeah, kind of interrogation, I did a lot of study in there. My brother's still a cop, and my dad was a homicide detective in DC. So he was very much into interrogations, investigation, that kind of stuff. And I also have a master's in counseling. And
Dang.
so I've been also following another YouTuber that you should definitely check out. It's a young man named Calloway. That's kind of
Okay.
his call sign. And what he does is it's all about like viral videos and personal branding, but it's truly fascinating because he takes a scientific approach and just what you're talking about emotions and things, he
Hmm.
really has to kind of deep dive into around that. So definitely check him out,
Fascinating.
man. I think you would gain some value from him around that. That's super interesting. And
Yeah.
where are you out of? Are you out of
Baltimore,
Baltimore?
Maryland. Yeah.
Baltimore? Okay, yeah. So
Just north. Yeah,
yeah,
just north of Baltimore.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're a stone's throw away from me. I'm in Virginia.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah. So we're not too far from each other.
Yeah.
We should definitely connect at some
Yeah.
point. So
How
how
did
are
wait?
you? Yeah,
Let me ask you, how did you get into
sure.
indie film production from being a cop?
Yeah, man.
I told my story. You got to tell yours.
Yeah, that was a little crazy because it was in the early 90s. I had gotten out of the Marine Corps. I moved to California. This was pre-digital. This is,
Okay.
94, 95. I got out of the
Yeah.
Marine Corps. I went to California, tried to be an actor. It was during a recession, believe it or not a huge one,
Hmm.
but a small one. I came back home with my tail between my legs, and I thought, well, that was my epic film career.
Yeah.
And I got a job as a police officer, and I thought, man, this is a career. And I did love it. It was fantastic, very honorable. But there happened to be another cop, and we worked midnights. We would like pull our cruisers up like this, and we would talk. And I was writing and stuff because I didn't know what else to do. I still had that artistic scratch I wanted to itch, and
Hmm.
he would allow me to, kind of pitch him stuff and talk through stuff. And he read one of my scripts and was like, "Holy crap, man, this was really good. We should do this." And he was wanting to be an actor himself. And I was
Yeah.
dismissed it like, what do you mean? Like, we should do it like that. I didn't even know that was a thing. Again, this
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
probably 97 at that point. So, Kevin Smith and all those guys, I mean, they were just a distant kind of like, they struck gold and nobody's going to be able
Yeah.
to kind of replicate that. But he was tenacious about it. And digital just started to become a thing. It was 1998, 99 at that point. And we used to moonlight as security guards at our local movie theater. So we were the police, at night. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we went to the manager and was like, hey, if we film from like 1 in the morning to 7 in the morning, would you be okay with that? And if we did a movie in your movie theater, and of course, we're the police. They were like, yes,
Yeah.
why wouldn't they? And this whole thing was born. My buddy treated it extremely professional. And I was blown away what he did, how he did it, and I jumped in and helped as much as I could, had a little acting part in it. The movie didn't turn out like great, but it did turn out and he finished it. And that was the first time I thought, holy cow, this is possible. Everything else
That's
was just
incredible.
trying to get on other people's projects. But right then, it was about the year 1999 to 2000.
Yeah.
He did that and allowed me to be a part of it, and I realized we can do this. And then shortly thereafter, the Red Camera came out, and I ended up doing a feature, and I got permission to use the Lord of the Rings video game in my movie, and that shot me off kind of into the
Nice.
sphere. Yeah, it was super cool, and that was my boot camp. That was
Yeah.
like my filmmaking school of hard knocks kind of situation. And of course, I just got addicted to it, and then in 2007, I had my first kind of coaching client. I didn't really call him that at the time. Like you, I
Hmm.
like teaching, I like helping, and I love telling stories. And so I was just trying to help people. And I started helping this couple that wanted to do this family friendly film. And I helped them through that process. And that was amazing too. I learned a ton. And that ultimately led me to continue to kind of do more. Now again, it's been like 27 years, which is crazy kind of doing it, but that was a bit of my origin story. So I have to give it up to the other cop buddy of mine's name is a guy named Jim Clock. And he is still very much working as a Hollywood actor. He ended up moving to LA and
No way.
yeah, has had a
That's
very
cool.
decent career, as much as one can have. He's not like an extra. I mean, he's really been acting in some good stuff. He's acted opposite like a lot of major players. So Jim and I are still, in communication with one another. But that was like the first experience with that. How are you in 2026? How are you finding the industry? What does the landscape look like from your point of view?
You give me in trouble. I'm pumped about it.
Awesome,
So,
man.
like, you know, the thing about guys like you and me is that we live in this crazy time
Yeah.
where we can do things we should not have permission to do. And like, under no circumstances should anybody let me write a novel. Right? Like I'm a dyslexic kid. I didn't get an MFA, right? Like I didn't
Yeah.
know anybody in the writing world. I didn't know anything. I had Microsoft Word and Amazon was like, yeah, you want to publish? We'll publish. You want to publish? We'll publish. So like it was but it has been like one of the huge joys of my life. And so I'm you know, it's a long story, but a friend of mine was badgering me for years to switch into screenplays. And I was like, no, I really like writing novels. It's fun. And he was like, you don't understand. He had read a bunch of my books and he was like, you don't understand. He's like, you don't make any money in novels. He's like, it's fun, but there's not a ton of money in writing books. And he's like, but there's still money in screenplays. And he's had 14 features published. Like
Wow.
he's a
Awesome.
he's a guy who's had a career. He's in his 70s. Like,
Yeah. 14 is crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he he kept badgering me about it, and I was like, "Fine, man, I'll give it a shot." And I fell in love with it. And so then I started after you get one, and you're like, "Well, what in the world do I do with this thing?"
Yeah.
And so I started looking around. I was like, "Oh, there's contests I can enter, and there's like
Yeah.
places I can go to pitch this, and there's
Yeah.
like, I was shocked, man. Like querying agents for a novel is hard.
Yeah.
It's tough, and like you have to pay to be at a conference with them. You have to sit down across from them one on one. You literally pay for like 5 minutes of their time, and you better nail that pitch, right? Like, did I was like, how do I query a screenplay? Because I wrote one, and then he and I wrote one together, and then I wrote a couple more, but we were pitching the one that he and I wrote together, and he was like, oh, you just all their email addresses are on IMDb Pro. I was like, seriously? So I took like a week, man. I made a database of 450 people who have made something in the last 3 years. I was like, oh, this is like where I can. And it was nice to have a guide to be like, look, don't email an
Yeah.
agent. The
Yeah.
agent isn't going to reply to you. Look for managers, look for producers. Like, and it was, But it was crazy. And like I'm saying, I should have no business being able to build an email. I think I got up to 650 emails on it. And you sit down and write 4 emails a day and you track who you're emailing so you're not like emailing them all. And again, I haven't sold anything yet, but I still feel like I did get some like requests for manuscripts, but that's better than I ever got as a novel writer. So it's
Yeah. So you've mostly been doing like so when you're doing your novels, you're mostly self-publishing up on Amazon.
yeah, so well, I go wide. I don't just publish on Amazon.
Okay.
I publish everywhere. So
Okay.
in the book world is similar to the it feels similar to the movie world in that it was disrupted a long time ago. It used to be like to
Yeah.
publish a novel, you had to be in New York. Just like to make a movie. The thing was be in LA, from what I understand, coming into this now. And that is kind of being disrupted and moved
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, really early 2000s, when e-readers were created, um, the New York publishing strong arm got disrupted. And so now it was like, oh, anybody from anywhere can publish a novel. And it kind of threw the system into chaos. And so when I was going to publish my first novel, right, like I had written, um, at that point, I had like 150 short stories that I thought were pretty good. And I'd published them
Wow.
online and I was getting traction. And I had readers that were following me and it was nice. And then, but I was like, I want to shift to this longer format of storytelling. And I was like, how do I do that? And at the time, this was like 2015, 2014, 2015. At the time, the advice was like, well, you have to sit down you have to get an agent, and then that agent will push you to a publishing company. And if the publishing company likes your idea, they'll give you a small advance. And if you can earn back that advance, they'll give you a bigger one. And very similar, right? Like there's gatekeepers. Those gatekeepers have the access to the people that actually create the book. And I was looking at that and I was like, I'm never going to do that. I had 5 children, right? Like all under the age of 12. I was working a full-time job. My wife was working part-time. I'd been working nonprofits, so I was fairly poor. I didn't have any money. And I was like, I don't have the money to even attend these conferences, much less the time to like go sit across from these agents. And I was like, well, you can query, but back then it was like querying is like the thing was querying's pointless because these people get paid to be set in front of. So there's like, what's the query? Why are they gonna hit you with a query? So that's when I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do this myself. And what's beautiful about writing a book is all the tools are there, right? Like I reached out to a friend and I was like, hey, who designs your covers? He recommended somebody to me. She built me like beautiful covers and I could write the book in Word and then I just, you just learn. I learned how to format it. I learned how to like put it together. And now there's even tools that do all that for you, which is crazy. And my first 7 novels, um, I published for free. Like I think my cost was $150 for the cover for each one.
Wow.
And I put it up for free. And then now the thing is like I didn't have any money to market because I was really poor. I didn't have any money to market. So because nonprofits don't pay. So you get paid in good vibes. So I was just kind of passing them out one book at a time. It was like, hey, I have a book. Do you want to read my book? Like
Yeah.
you want to read my book? And online, like Facebook was a thing for a while, and you could be like, hey guys, I wrote a book. Who wants to get my book? And like, I built a following of readers and still have that following that kind of tracks me around. Um, and I still have never really marketed a book.
Hmm.
It's one of those things of like, at some point I'll do this, and I just haven't. But I don't. The nice thing about the book world is you can do it all by yourself. And something that is
Yeah.
interesting to me in the movie world is that this is a team sport, and that's a
100%, man.
little new for me, right? Like,
Yeah, funny you say that. I say that quite a bit. My saying is filmmaking, just like life, is not a solo sport. It was never intended to be solo.
yeah,
So filmmaking, you have to have others, and it's better with others. Like there is the
yeah,
one-off person where they could take their iPhone and go film the whole thing. And I mean, we all know those things are out there, but I have found there. I mean, that's like extremely rare most times it's going to take a village to get it done.
Yeah.
And people either love that or don't. There's rarely any in between. And I happen to be one of those. I just love that collaborative, collective art expression. And it never ends up being the film I wrote. It always ends up being something else because once you invite someone else in, they're not passive. They're going to
Oh
put
yeah.
their 2 cents and it's going to morph and change. And some people I have a hard time giving that up. I'm dealing with that right now where, I have someone they're trying to get the script there, but they're just having a hard time with it. And I can understand it. It's their baby. Someone else is trying to stretch it, offering another point of
Hmm.
view, and it's not an easy thing with that. If I were to say the old adage of 10,000 hours to become an expert in whatever we're trying to do, and that includes writing, let's say, how would you, in the last 3 years, how have you been able to try to maximize to get to that level, that would approximate like a 10,000 hours kind of experience? For one, it sounds like you had a bit of a coach mentor yourself. And I always love that because that can help close that distance a little
Yeah,
bit
it's
for
great.
us,
It's
where
great.
you don't have to have the full 10,000 hours. You can
Yeah.
either pay someone or work with a mentor. And I love the fact that you co-authored one with it. I do that as well. I write by myself, but I also have an excellent writing partner named Jay, and we work on stuff. So how do you, for the audience out there, you're, you and I seem to be the men of a certain generation where we're not in our 20s.
Yeah.
And,
I'm in
you
my
know,
late 40s. Yeah.
okay, so I've got a little more years on you. Um, what,
You
how
don't
would you,
look it. Sorry.
yeah, it's my dad. My
Dude,
dad's genes. I'm 53, and
no way. I
yeah,
don't
people
believe
are
it.
like, "What?"
Lies.
Yeah. So my dad looks very, very young. So
Oh,
that's what I'm kind of banking on.
that's
But how
funny.
do you get those 10,000 hours that one needs to kind of, even feel good about? All right, I think I can do this.
That's a great question. I want to hear your answer too. Um, when it comes to screenplays, I kind of got to cheat because I was working with an anti-human trafficking organization.
Hmm.
And we had a very quick falling out. And I left there. I was looking for a job, and that's how I got to the company I work for now. And one of the things that was really fascinating about it is, we write a script and then actors play it. And that was the first time I'd ever been in that collaborative writing space. I was working on my first novel at the time, about to publish my first novel. And I remember we wrote a script and then we went to a week-long video shoot and brought the actor in, and it was wild. I was prompting. Um, since then I've done a little bit of all of it. I've done directing, I've done I've done producing, what we call producing, which is really kind of running the board and sound and all that kind of stuff. We lost our lighting, guys. So I had to figure out lighting one time. But it was like I was sitting on YouTube, like, oh my gosh. But so for me, I love the watching an actor take what I do and run with it. I think it's incredible.
Hmm.
It's always better. But so I say that all that to say, like, I think the way you get the 10,000 hours is however the hell you can. Like, it's just a like grind. When
Hmm.
writing novels, it was like I'm working a full-time day job and I don't want to take time away from my kids. And the last uh my oldest is 22, so the last 8 years I've had a kid in high school, at least one kid in high school, usually two kids in high school. And now I've got college kids who need help. But I want to be going to their games. I want to be like participating in their stuff. I want to be there. So for me, that means like writing fun is starts at 10 o'clock at night. And I have
Okay.
like a 2 hour block. I have from
Okay.
10 to like midnight or 1 before I crash out. And it means like I'm turning off the TV. I'm not like, I'm sleeping 5 to 6 hours a night and I am working. Like, and it's
Hmm.
that it just requires that daily discipline that like I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do this thing.
So you
And
do it every day.
I try. I don't do it every day. Like sometimes things get in the way, like, and sometimes they're great things to get in the way. Like sometimes
Yes.
it's like, hey, my wife wants to go out to eat. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to go out to eat. Tonight we're not going to write. So I hold to myself, like I try to do like 4 to 5 a week. Um,
Hmm.
Saturdays and Sundays, I can typically kick in the morning. But the dialogue doctor coaching takes a lot of the morning work too. So it's that like balancing all of it. But I think the key is prioritization. Like for me, it's about this is something I have to make happen and taking it like always saying yes. Like, when I wrote my first screenplay, I gave it to my friend and he read it and he was like, you're still thinking literally, not visually. And
Hmm.
I was like, oh, how do I think visually? And he was like, well, he's like, it's hard to communicate. And he was like, maybe the best way is if we did one together. I was like, let's do that. Like, let's do that. So, and that's a sacrifice because I had to put down the novel I was writing. I had to put aside the like work I was already doing to switch to learn from this guy. But it's saying yes to all of those opportunities as a
Yeah.
learning experience. And I think just not holding anything too precious. Like, understanding that like this novel or this screenplay or this thing that I'm working on is not the last thing I'm going to do. And there's no golden magic bullet. Like this is one of like take the Ray Bradbury approach. This is one of 10,000 stories I'm going to write. So just by sheer volume, at some point, something will hit, right? Like it's that. But yeah, what about you? That's my
Yeah, no, I like it,
preaching
man.
on it.
So I would say, trying to get to mastery, I definitely think trying to write every day, writers write. You can't call yourself a writer if you're not writing. I find a lot of people, they love the idea of writing. They love the idea of having written. They love the idea of having a script. But the thought of writing they just, can never get behind the computer and it wipes them out. I've seen I every day I get up at 4 a.m. and I go to the gym and I try to go to the gym every day because if I don't, it'll wiggle in its way of all the reasons why not to go. There's 20 reasons not to go. But like you, there are great things that get in the way where I can't go to the gym. So my goal is every day recognizing that I'll probably get there about 5 days a week. I
Yeah.
try never to miss 2 days in a row. That's a big deal to me. If I miss 2 days in a row, it's because something's going down. So writers write, so it's in the doing. I think books, videos, and training can condense that timeline. We live in an
Yeah.
age where information is generally free. It's
Yeah.
generally free. And there's so much of it that you should be like, I I definitely subscribe to the thought of your car should be like a constant library. So I'm either listening to an audiobook,
Hmm.
listening to a podcast, watching a video,
I'm the
all on
exact
the
same way.
craft of story, filmmaking.
Yep.
I'm constantly doing that. And then when I'm at the gym, the first thing I do is I do 20 minutes on the elliptical and I'm going to watch a video, and I'm going to, so this is what's on my audiobook, right now is it's on story,
Nice. Yeah.
so in how many books have I read on story? This is what I find funny. Like I'm dealing with people that again are a little more seasoned. So convincing them that they still need to be learning and educating themselves, a lot of times they think that's behind them. But
Mm,
I've read at least 25 books on story, at least 15 books on filmmaking. And I'm constantly reading books about the craft, about story. And then I do think a coach or a mentor can also condense down that time
yeah.
significantly. That's where I'd be willing to pay. It's you get the information free, but the implementation or the coaching is a
Yeah.
service. And that's where I'd be willing to kind of leapfrog my timeline, particularly because again, I am 53. It's not that I'm over the hill, it's that I don't know what the heck everybody's waiting on. There's a sense of urgency for me
Mhm.
personally. I'm moving the freak out and I want to take the hill. Maybe that's in the Marine in me, but I'm trying to take the hill and I'm throwing everything I got at it because, like you said, it eventually over a period of time, if you stay with it long enough, something's going to hit. And I want to make sure I leave it all on the field.
Yeah.
I want to get to heaven
Yeah.
like not having stuff in my rear view mirror, wondering, dang it, I wish I would have, should have, that kind of thing. So I think to get to the 10,000 hours, you don't have to have in 2026 an actual 10,000 hours. There's a lot of ways to magnify and leapfrog, but you still do need to do the work. And writing every day is kind of like a singer doing their scales. It's scales are such a basic fundamental thing about voice that you could wonder, like, why would a professional need to do that? And it's because it's the same thing why Michael Jordan started out doing dribbling drills every day. This is a master
Mhm.
in basketball, maybe the greatest of all time. And what does he do? He starts off dribbling. He has
Mhm.
small drills that he's done since he was a kid, but he knows the fundamentals. You have to know the basics to break the rules. So many writers resist tropes, resist genre, resist format
Yeah.
because they don't want to be in a box. And I understand that creatively, but you also need to understand the psychology of the human brain and why stories resonate with us in order to be able to get your story told. So that would be my answer. Mentorship,
Yeah.
books, training videos, and then the actual doing of the writing. You got to write.
Yeah. And I love part of what you're saying in that, like, a mentality I think you have that I've adopted too is that there is no end zone.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. No.
there is no finish line. There's no moment where I'm like, oh, I've arrived.
Yeah.
Right? Like, people used to ask me all the time, what's the best, if I'm going to start with your catalog, what's the best book?
Yeah.
And my natural response is like the next one.
Yeah.
The next one's going to be better than the
Yeah.
last one. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, read the next one. Like, because it's always and so with that mentality of like, nobody's going to pin a badge on you and nobody's going to
Yeah.
like give you a trophy that's like, hey, you are now the thing.
Yeah.
It's always improvement. It's always the next step.
Yeah.
It's always the next like thing. Yeah. And even when I like, my wife teases me because like when we watch a movie or like when I sit down, I have all these college students now. So they're like, hey, have you watched this thing? And we'll sit down and watch it. And or I'll be like, hey, have you watched this old thing that I love? And they'll watch it, they'll be like, this is so slow. But so so
Yeah.
we watch it together. And I'm always taking notes and I'm like, because even downtime, I want to know how that
Oh yeah.
worked. And like there's no like on or
100%.
off. There just is. And it's
Yeah.
like a constant mastery of the craft. Like I never watched a Coen Brothers movie before. Never. And I was sitting with, there's some other screenplay writers in my area and we are sitting around talking and one of them was like, your sense of humor is so cool. I was like, I don't even know who they are. So I watched their whole catalog. Like I took
Yeah.
a month and I just sat down and I watched all the way through it. And watching it with like the best equivalent of the screenplay I can find online for free and like reading as I watch and like trying to figure out not just what are they doing, but how are they doing it and why does it work and why does it make me laugh and how can I replicate it and like just living that life like you're talking about of like that constant drive to
Yeah. I
improve,
mean,
to be better.
you have to there is truth around, you have to act like it to be like it, and suddenly you will be it. You can't all the just wish to be a writer and act like a non-writer. You have to act like a writer, then you will become a writer. You will be a
Yeah,
writer. Can
but it's
I
like you said earlier, it's the writing that is the thing.
That is the
It's not
thing.
having written, it's the
Yeah,
writing.
it is.
And
The
so like
writing's the hard part.
just get to writing. Like
Just right.
but
So
it's not the hard part. Like the hard part is the money. The
yeah,
easy part
true.
is the writing,
You're right,
right?
right.
Like
Because all you have is time and a blank sheet. You can
yeah.
put that in. Can I give you a cool little thing someone gave me, and I'd like to pass it on to you?
Yeah,
So
please.
actually, in your neck of the woods in Maryland, there is the AFI. the American Film Institute, and they have a website. And what I want you to Google is AFI Top 100, and it's
Okay.
going to give you the top 100 movies of all time. And they constantly update it. It's great. And what I want you to do is go in there, and this it's perfect because it's 100, and just
Dude, you're
they
speaking my
even
language right
they
now.
even
You're
have a
totally
little
speaking
check.
my language.
They have a little thing where
Yeah.
you can check them off, and I want you to go in there and score yourself and see where you're at. When
Deal.
I did this screenwriting group that like changed my life, they were so good and intense. And I always knew I wanted to watch some of these old films. I just never got around to doing it. And they gave that assignment. And suddenly it gave me a reason I had never seen. Now, this has been a long time ago. So now I haven't seen it. But I had never seen Citizen Kane, Casablanca. I think it's called Gold Rush. And Citizen Kane is the best film of all time still. But
Yeah.
I fell in love with Casablanca. It's like I never seen Gone with the Wind. But again, I knew at some point I wanted to see these films, and like that gave me an excuse to be like, now's the time, because I was using it as school. It was like this is an assignment. It isn't just me casually watching a movie. It was like this is my scales. I'm doing my research, and as a result of it, so I'm up to like 76% now. I've seen like 76 out of the 100. There's some of them that are. I'm not a big horror guy, so maybe one day I'll get around to watching those.
Yeah.
It's films. It's not just old black and whites. I mean, Jaws is on there, Star Wars is on there, Tarantino's got stuff on there. They update it again every year to keep it current, and rightly so. Not a lot of films make it in, and I'm glad of that. But the ones that are Indiana Jones, they're all in there. And you've got 100. So just go on their website. I'll put it in the show notes also, dear listeners, so you can check it out. But I encourage you, because also, Jeff, here's another little anecdote. There's been things where you're in the room and you're pitching, and they would always say it's this meets that. And then for the recent longest time, they were like, don't do that. That's done. Nobody's doing that. That's stupid. Don't do that. So people stopped doing it. Well, now people are going back to doing it.
Yeah.
And the assumption of Hollywood, where are they pulling this meets that? It's the AFI's top 100. They're going to assume the top 100. And they're going to assume when you say it's Jaws meets, Twister, you're going to know what that is. Oh, that's Sharknado. That's Sharknado, right? So when it's this meets that, generally pulls from the AFI top 100. So it also gives you an excuse to get some real good filmography and education of some of the classics and the best that we have to offer. And you'll fall in love with some of these films where you're like, oh man, this is going to be a grind. And then you watch it, and you're like, oh my gosh, now I see why it's in the top 100. It's amazing. So please do that, and then report back to me of what your score was.
Absolutely will. I have a question for you.
Yeah, man.
So we're in the literary world.
Yeah.
We're 25 years from crazy people like me storming the gates and really knocking them down. And now we're in a place where it is almost impossible to say what is the best book, because everything is so decentralized.
Yeah.
And everything is so niche. It doesn't mean that readers are niche. Like, readers read really whatever their neighbor recommends. That's what people go read. But we're in a place where, like, because the output has exploded, it's almost the gatekeepers can't say these are the winners because there's too much. There's too much. How is that? It feels, when I look at the film industry with like streaming and the like amount of things that come out, that is becoming true there too. Is that true, or is it different in the film world?
It's a little different because the barrier entry of cost kind of eliminated a lot of those. It's not to volume. I will say, though, to your point, it is going to get that way, whether people want it to or not. And that is good, bad, right, or wrong. AI is going to oversaturate the market, and it is going to there's going to be a volume of content. I would surmise we have about a 2 year window max
Mm.
to where it's going to be the former AI tradition where story is king and it wins and all that. But AI in the next 2 years is going to oversaturate the market. It doesn't mean that you can't rise above. It just means that you won't be able to rise above without a market spend. You're going to have to break through the noise with capital. That's the only way.
That's how it is in the writing world
And
right
that's
now.
the way it is in the writing world. Like I
Yeah.
do think it's kind of going to go. And so I've turned 6 of my screenplays into novels, and I haven't published them yet. I'm still working through the edit, and I also have a book on filmmaking, and I'm about 80% done. I'm really
Mm.
close. I have a workbook and stuff that I'm going on with this. So I'm also I've been studying a lot over the past 2 years about publishing and authors. I follow a lot of people. I just watched a video this morning about kind of the latest and greatest of what's going on. And one of the things that the gentleman talked about that I follow, Dale Roberts, is that they being the publishers, not just Amazon, but Ingram Spark, these others, where they had to like almost pause publishing for a moment because it was so much AI content that they had to in nonfiction. In
Yeah.
nonfiction, it was so much AI content
Hmm.
that they are trying to discern what is and what isn't right now, and they just needed a pause for it. And this is recent, is like literally playing out in real time. They did give a report that fiction was a little better because AI just doesn't have a heart and soul yet. And so if it ever will, Lord willing, it won't ever, but it is not as good as the human writers. So fiction for now is not as penetrated as AI for nonfiction has
Yeah.
been.
Depends on the human writer.
Yeah, true.
So, and I will say, like, it's interesting in the not in the literary world. Amazon put out a rule a couple months ago that you are not allowed to publish more than 30 books a month. Now,
Interesting.
that
Okay.
means there's enough people
Yeah,
trying to
trying to
publish
do
a
that
book
that
a
they had to
day
right
that they had to make a rule.
tamp down
There's
on.
enough people
Yeah,
trying to do it that it's screwing with their profits. That's the
yeah, of
only reason. Amazon doesn't love
course.
literature, and they are not there to help us.
No,
They're there to make money. And so when they make a rule and it changes their algorithm, it's about them protecting their own profits. And that rule tells me that like they're getting flooded. And
that's
it's,
exactly right.
when we in the author world, talk about, when I talk to writers about what they want to do with their work, we talk about how like the dream used to be McDonald's. That like your book was going to be in every house. You're going to be a household name, and the book's going to be in everyone's bookshelf. And that a more realistic dream today, with the kind of the state of where writing is to be a really great burger place on the corner of your neighborhood. That
Yeah,
you can have a solid career
right.
selling to a community that loves your work.
That's right.
But there may never be another McDonald's in the literary world. And
Yeah, no,
that's kind of,
I don't disagree with
yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
I follow a guy named Chris Fox.
yeah,
He writes fiction and
yeah,
he's written nonfiction
yeah,
for
yeah. I know
authors.
of Chris Fox. Yeah,
Oh my gosh,
yeah, yeah. It's
I
great.
love that dude. He's amazing. Particularly, yeah. I mean, I've read a lot of his fiction, but his nonfiction work is primo. Um, you had mentioned a minute ago about tools. Um, do you have any tools that you like that you would recommend? Ones that you think listeners should check out, regardless kind of where it's at, either in the screenplay venture or the writing venture? What tools are you using
Like
that you
tools
would
to
give a thumbs
learn
up?
or tools to work.
Kind of an open-ended question. What would you recommend for
Hmm.
people to kind of check out? Like, you guys definitely need to check out. How would you fill that in?
I mean, I think that's an interesting question. I keep my story Bible now, like in Notebook LM.
Love
Um,
Notebook Ellen, man.
yeah,
That can do
it's
some cool
great.
stuff. Yeah.
And so like I'm currently writing a series with a partner,
Okay.
and the books are huge. The first one is 180,000 words. The second one's like
That's
160
a lot,
pages.
my friend.
Yeah, it's a
What
they're
genre?
the paranormal comedy. So they
Okay,
are
so that's definitely long. Right.
Yeah, it's Brooklyn Nine-Nine meets Ghostbusters, um, which is fun. But
Nice.
yeah, but the first book was pretty easy to keep track of because we had a single POV, so we are just kind of living in his world.
Yeah,
The season two that we're getting ready to finish, we went with seven POVs, and so it's a lot to track. And
that's a
so
lot to track. Yeah.
Notebook LM's been great because I drop every chapter in, and I just keep adding to the source material. And I like, hey, what color is Buck's car?
Yeah.
Like what's where are all the places? Because we have one character, like a running gag is that he's kind of old and retired. He's like the Danny Glover from Lethal Weapon. Like, I'm too old for this crap. And but they're always talking about, oh, you're the guy who did the thing with the thing. And like I was recently, I was like, oh my gosh, how many times have we said that? And like, what are all the adventures of Buck? And so it's really nice to have Notebook Ellen to be like, hey, how many times? And like,
No.
could you make me a list? And it's like, whoop. Whereas in previous series, even just like 6 years ago, I'd have to go read all of the books. So like, I wrote one series that has 6 books in it, and I'd have to go like thumb through them and be like, oh, that's right, that I said that thing, I did
Well,
that thing.
you're in good company because George R. R. Martin famously he had a fan that just was like an Uber fan, and
Yeah,
and what happened was I'm sure now he probably uses well actually he ended up hiring that guy, and
yeah,
he had him like on retainer, and what he would do is he would bring up some old character he had like 3 books ago, and
mm,
he'd be like, hey, what color is his eyes?
yeah. It's the
And
weird crap, man. Yeah,
immediately that guy was like, oh, on page whatever of this book, his eyes are blue. He was able
yeah,
to like, and so
yeah.
now you would use like, yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. But
Sanderson
famously,
has one of
you're
those
in
guys.
good company. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, you
Brandon
just can't.
Sanderson is one of those guys too. His sole job is story Bible. He just
That's
walks
right.
around.
Yeah, you just can't.
Yeah.
You can't. And what a cool. I mean, how fun would that be to like have that role where you're like living in this crazy world people created?
Yeah, it's great. But I don't, I keep everything as cheap as possible. It comes from being poor. So I write with Microsoft Word.
Okay.
My screenwriting mentor had to really convince me to buy Final Draft.
Okay.
I was really trying to figure out how to format a screenplay in Word. I was like, I can do it, man. And he was
So
like, it's not worth it. I was like,
it's
I
not
can
worth
do
it.
it.
No,
Yeah.
it's not. So back in I told you I was writing a screenplay back in the 90 early 90s when I first started, and like you, I mean I just had Word, and like real basic Word,
Yeah.
and I thought, and I kind of tabbed in stuff because I had seen them enough, but this
Yeah.
was basically like pre-internet,
Yep.
95, 96. There was no, hey, let me go and download this screenplay. I had to get my hands on a couple scripts, and when I was in LA I did, and so I kept them and tried to mock that. But I also so I do have Final Draft, but I loved Celtex for a long time. It's
I've never heard of that.
CELTX.com. And now it's all online, but it used to be for free. It had a free version for the longest time, and it was freaking
Wow.
great. Now they've added a bunch of stuff to it, but Celtex, CELTX.com, was a great one. Hey, so and I'd love to get your perspective on this because so we are in the business of IP exploitation. And I mean that in the most positive sense of
Oh, it's a good way to say it. Yeah.
exploitative,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that we're
Yeah.
trying to maximize and exploit our IP to the
Hmm.
biggest audience for a financial return so that we can continue and do it again.
Ideally in as
Famously,
many forms
as
possible.
many forms as possible. So that's where I'm going with this, Jeff. This is my question. You've already saw me coming.
Yeah.
So famously, George Lucas made more money on the toys than he did the films, right?
Yeah.
I'm because I actually do fantasy and sci-fi, which lends itself
Nice.
nicely to IP development. And my
Hmm.
question to you is talk to me a little bit about IP exploitation. Like, should I, the listener, as a screenwriter, and let's say I do sci-fi, should I be thinking about turning my script into a novel, into a graphic novel, into a video game, a board game? I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many iterations. Give me your thoughts about
Yeah. So
other revenue IP
yeah, this is a
expansion.
big conversation in the author world because Kickstarter is such a has been such a boon for people. And, um, with Kickstarter, you want to have bonuses to pull people in.
Yeah.
And so getting artwork, getting like things to do is a big thing. Um, I'm speaking from somebody who's interviewed and talked to a lot of people, but not done it myself. Because like I said,
Yeah.
I've weirdly invested zero money in my books. But the initial thought is you want to find a central piece of IP. So if you're writing a novel, that's your central piece. And then you want to spring out of there to things that the people who are consuming your novel will directly want. So, for example, we were doing Nerds, my writing partner's very big on Kickstarter for his cozy queer fantasies, but we were doing Nerds. We were thinking about doing a Kickstarter for it.
Okay.
Our agents carry around briefcases because they're like social workers for ghosts. So they have these old briefcases that they carry around. And I was like, oh my gosh, we could make a custom briefcase and give that as a giveaway on Kickstarter. Sounds like a great idea, like a fun IP, like something to add. And he was like, we're like 3 steps away from that because the people coming for our book, it's not a natural jump to go, oh, I
Yeah.
also want a
They
briefcase.
don't know it yet.
They
Yeah.
don't know it
They
yet.
have
They
to read
might
it,
want a
then it
briefcase. Yeah.
becomes right. Right.
But
Right.
if they're coming for the book, they are going to want an audiobook,
For
right? If they're
sure.
coming for the book, they are going to want bookmarks and stickers, right? Like if they're
For
coming for
sure.
the book, they are going to want things that book people like mugs, right? Like so you got to think about like what is the customer coming for and then the other ways to sell that IP. So like every novelist I know is also writing, they finish a novel and they immediately try to write the screenplay. It's like it's a thing that we all do
Of
because it's
course.
like we know this is another iteration of
Yeah.
our
And
work.
you
And
just saw
so
it in your head, right? You just
yeah,
saw
you're
it
like,
in your
oh,
head while you're writing. So
this is a natural transition. Do we like write the screenplay and like, for nerds, it doesn't naturally transmit into like D&D groups. But if I was writing fantasy and I wrote a fantasy novel, I would be thinking about like, how do I turn this into something like a campaign I can sell to D&D? How do
yeah.
I turn this into a board game? But the key to finding like the next IP for the next jump of IP is to take steps with your community and be like, okay, this is the next thing my community is going to want. It makes sense that I produce that. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
And like someday I might produce nerds
Hmm.
briefcases, but I have to grow the audience to a place where I
Yeah.
have enough of them that are
Yeah.
like,
It makes
I want
sense.
luxury items on
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. And and
Like,
I and I had to learn the hard way too, where you're thinking from it initially from your point of view, where again, the value,
yeah,
the
no,
briefcase
yeah,
is already valuable. To them, they don't even know that the story is the briefcase is not valuable
no
at
clue.
all yet.
Yeah,
Once they've read the story, then you're talking that's different because now it's a fan. Now you could sell that. But that is what
yeah,
I would think as an upsell. I will say for again all the listeners, I've done a lot of crowdfunding stuff and I consult on crowdfunding. Digital rewards win the day.
yeah.
Digital rewards as much as you can. The moment you
Super
start
easy to
doing
deliver.
physical rewards, you got to remember that you're giving away some of that money. And some people, I just gave to a crowdfunding campaign today. And I chose a digital reward. He was giving some physical away. I just don't want the cost to go. I want, my $50 that I gave today, I want 100% of that to go towards his film. I don't want
Yeah.
him to have to print a t-shirt, mail it to Ron, because the mailing is a
Yeah.
hassle. The printing is the hassle. I I can't tell you how many filmmakers I talked to where they end up raising, 8 grand, but really they're only going to see after Kickstarter takes its cut, the bank takes its cut, whatever the processing fee is, then all your physical rewards, and you're left with about 3 grand of
Yeah.
actual cash that you're going to use. And then
Yeah.
you're like, well, shoot, I got to repay myself for marketing and got to repay myself for the time. Like that ain't going to happen. You need to recognize going in digital rewards on crowdfunding wins today. So
Yeah. And
I,
thinking of it, it's like that old school
yeah,
funnel where
yes,
like at the top of the funnel is the initial thing you create. If it's a
yeah,
movie, if it's the book, if it's whatever,
yeah,
every step you get away from that product, the funnel gets smaller.
smaller for
So if
sure.
I'm jumping to briefcases, if
Yeah,
I've got like 100,000
yeah, it's
people
too big of a
supporting my
leap. Yeah,
novel, if I'm jumping to briefcases, I got like 5, 10.
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Like, because it's so far down that funnel. But
For
yeah,
sure.
it's yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm are you familiar with Dungeon Crawler Carl, that book?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the main character runs around in these boxers with like, they're white boxer briefs with like
Yep.
hearts on it. But nobody would want like a tchotchke of that before they read the book. They'd be like, that's stupid. But
Yeah.
now that I've read the books, and I know that's affiliated with the book, and I know what
Hmm.
it means. Oh, that's the hero's. That's kind of a gag and a joke because
Yeah.
he keeps his boxers keep leveling up, so now he has to have them on.
Yeah.
Has to wear them to survive. That becomes funny, but it's not funny until you're a fan. And
Yeah.
so again, you're right. Definitely, the briefcase is. It sounds cool in the beginning, but it's going to cost you money, and people aren't there yet. They'll get
Yeah.
there, but when you're thinking crowdfunding, we always, again, dear listener, please listen to this. It's not about you. You can't think of it from your point of view. It's about them and what do
Yeah.
they want and how you can esteem them. They're the hero of their story. They're just buying your book to fulfill some kind of need, some kind of pain point, escapism, whatever you might call it, which is great. But don't think they're going to want all the little goodies
Yeah.
until you convert them to be an ambassador. Then it's
Well,
game on.
what's nice is as you create the different versions of your IP, you actually increase the crowd base. So like if you go a
Absolutely.
step from your
Yeah,
screenplay, your indie movie to like, okay, I'm going to cut this into vertical shorts, or
that's
I'm
right.
going to like, if I'm going a step from my novel, I'm like, okay, I'm going to put out the audiobook. I'm
Yep.
going to gain more fans in that audiobook. So by the time I do get to the bottom of the funnel,
Yeah,
there's more people down there, right?
that's
Like,
right.
so it's
Yeah.
easier to take steps than leaps in what you're
Yeah. And you're
creating.
just kind of pulling them in, like you said, and it goes down. And from
Hmm.
what I understand, if you're an author considering to be one, that is where the money is the longer you can keep someone in a series, the better, because then they're really willing. And I've realized, like, I first bought Dungeon Crawler Carl. I bought the first book and I couldn't really get into it. And then my cousin kept saying, no, man, it's good. You got to, because I'm not really that kind of genre type. But I was like, all right, I'm going to kind of stick with it. And of course, it got about halfway. Next thing I know, I care about the characters. I'm all in.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
what did I do? Immediately, I remember the night when I realized I came home. I was like, "Holy crap! I'm a fan of this guy's." I bought all eight of his books. All eight, I bought them
Mm,
that night. So the
yeah.
moment you become a fan, that's where that funnel's great because it actually, if you can write in a series, that's where people make money. And that's why, I mean, I don't even know that the Dungeon Crawler Carl author, I don't even know if he's announced the end of the series or not. He's got one where you can pre-order it still. He might just keep the gravy train
Just keep
going.
going. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
keep
because
going.
why not?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially if you enjoy it. And I will say, I think there's a nice change happening in the literary world. I don't know if this is happening in the film world, but literary world, with the like kind of overwhelmedness of the algorithms that people used to trust to find the books they like, more and more they're turning to individual creators. So there is
yeah,
more freedom now to be like, hey, I'm building a community, a following around my specific work. So I
definitely.
don't necessarily have to just keep doing Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Yeah,
Whereas when
for
you're
sure.
writing the Amazon algorithm, if you changed out of that series, you started over. And so
Yeah,
like for him now, not really, but you kind of did. For that kind of producer now, he has the because he's hooked you as a fan on Dungeon Crawler Carl. You're probably on his email list. You're
oh yeah,
definitely following when he's updating things. He can
100%.
send you an email and be like, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. You're gonna like it. You like this. I like this." And because now we're more into this, like I'm looking for authentic creators
Yep.
as fans, we're really to trust somebody in that like leap to the new thing that they're doing.
And it's funny too because if you look at his other works, um, he's got a bunch of other stuff out there, but they didn't do nowhere near like what Dungeon Crawler Carl did. And it again, it kind of snuck up on me. And now I just see his writing as, I mean, he is prolific. He is
Yeah.
brilliant in his, I mean, the nuances and the
Yep.
detail that he had to figure out. Because he's the master
Yeah.
puppeteer behind the scenes to
Hmm.
knowing that this one thing he mentioned in chapter 3 is going to impact,
It's gonna come back to
two
that. Yeah.
books later
Yep.
is just the guy's brilliant.
Yeah.
Matt Dinamon,
Yeah.
Dinaman.
Yeah.
is his name. If you
Great
should
writer.
definitely check it out if you haven't. So as we kind of start to wind down a little bit, where do you see people blowing it? Where are people making mistakes that you would throw out like a caution flag to?
They the creatives that I work with adapt somebody else's understanding of success.
Mm,
That is not a often tales of success are narratives told retrospectively. And so, oh, this is how I found success by doing these 5 steps. And then you're
mm-hmm,
like, oh, I should do those 5 steps. Like, for example, it was really popular for a while in the literary world to say, like, well, success is following the write fast, publish, repeat model, where you try to crank out a book a month, you build like a spike in the algorithm, and then you keep it going with these books. Um, and some writers are geared to do that, and they're great at it, and it's amazing. A lot of writers I work with are like a book a year at best, maybe
yeah,
two, maybe a
yeah,
book every 2 years.
yeah,
And understanding that because they can't meet that popular metric, that does not mean that they are a failure.
yeah,
And so, coming to terms with like, what do I actually want out of my creative world? And what does that mean? Like, this idea that there is a full-time creator who earns a full-time living off of that is fairly new in the modern era. Most of the old authors that we know, he lists off like the Fitzgeralds or the Hemingways or the like, Toni Morrison's, even like the people that we hold up as like these are great authors of the past. They were working side gigs. They were working side jobs. They were like the idea that like financial stability through your creativity is the end goal of all things is new. And so
yeah.
like coming to understand like what am I actually capable of in the
Mm-hmm.
life that I have and the decisions I've made and what does success look like for me, I think will help keep you from falling out of motivation. Right?
Yeah, I
Like,
like that. I like that.
yeah.
And I also love what you said because funny enough, I also have 5 kids. So
That's really weird.
yeah, that is funny because particularly in today's age, nobody has,
Yeah, nobody has 5 kids. We're
I've got an
strange, dude.
army.
Yeah,
I've got an army, so I know you
yeah.
feel the
I call
same.
mine the horde. They're the
Yeah,
they're the horde. Yeah.
absolutely, man. I mean, my wife and I one day I turned to her and was like, when we go to a restaurant, I have to say party of 7.
It's crazy,
That just
dude. Yeah,
sounds like a lot of people.
yeah. And
Uh,
going to McDonald's is like $100
yeah,
plus venture.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'd rather just go inside because the
yeah,
the drive through, there's too many of you. Let's just go
yeah,
inside and get it. Um, but I appreciate what you said about being interrupted, and you're trying to shoot every day. You're trying to write every day, but recognizing that your kids are going to come in and say, "Hey, Dad, let's watch this movie," and your wife's going to say, "Hey, honey, let's go out to dinner," and you're gladly interrupted, I think is what the way you word it.
yeah,
And that's pretty poetic because I do think life is the thing that is happening and passing you by while you're waiting to live it. You're
yeah,
waiting for your life to start. Next thing you know, you turn around and you're 53 and you're
yeah.
like you could probably grind and get an extra book in a year. You probably could
Mhm.
do that. But how much are you going to have to sacrifice your kids, your wife, your relationship, your marriage? You should always, in my opinion, and it sounds like yours as well, err on the side of creating memories, living life, because that's only going to yield dividends to your writing, right?
Yeah, and finding joy in the act of creation.
That's right.
Right?
In the
Like
doing.
it's not making a hit that brings the joy.
That's right.
It's finding the joy in the like, hey,
Yeah.
I have the
It's in the work.
privilege. Yeah, and this is like something I feel every morning I get up, I'm like, man, today I have the privilege of coaching people in their work that it wouldn't be possible without frickin' Zoom. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have this
No.
weird technology.
Right.
I have the privilege of doing that. I have the privilege of opening Microsoft Word and writing into it. That's an insane, historically an insane privilege. And like it's this understanding that the actual joy of creation doesn't come in the financial success, but it comes in the like every moment of doing it. And once
Yeah, I
I
love.
once I was able to make that shift, it took the pressure off of like, what am I doing here?
Yeah,
I'm
exactly. And for screenwriters in particular, because most people's work, This is just again, the truth, listener. Most people's work is not going to get produced. So I always advise, make it change at least one person, and that one person should be you, the writer.
Yeah,
Make
that's a
sure it
great way of
changes
putting it.
at least one person for the freaking
Yeah,
positive, and it should be you.
yeah.
um, what are you working on now that excites you, and then how can people support and collaborate with you? How can they get a hold of the Dialogue Doctor?
Yeah, so to come be part of the Dialogue Doctor, Patreon's the best place to jump in. And for the Dialogue Doctor community, we're doing two things right now that I love. A, for free, once a week, I pull a master work, like something that everybody loves. I take a piece of it and we digest what's happening in that scene and how we can improve our writing from that scene. And
Cool.
it's a lot of it's about characterization, a lot of it's about like voice modulation and like expressing emotion. And so it's not just for novelists, it's for any, if you're whatever you're writing. And that's free. You can just come and get those. They'll show up in your email
Okay. Awesome.
every time they come out. I'm holding a conference in August.
Oh,
It's my
cool.
first big conference. We're calling it the Fiction Makers Conference. It'll be August 22nd and 23rd in Baltimore. And
Outstanding.
yeah, I've got actually my mentor is going to be speaking on how to turn your novel into a screenplay and vice versa.
Excellent.
But I've got Inez Johnson is coming. She's written over 100 romance novels, is a very successful romance writer. Leslie Penelope speaking. She was listed as one of the 100 greatest sci-fi writers of all time by USA Today.
Wow, that's
She'll
impressive.
be there talking. So yeah, it's going to be real. I'm really pumped because it's the first time we're getting all of like we're getting people from the community in the same place. So
Yeah,
that's going to be really exciting. And I think, yeah, that's another way if you just want to like test things out, you can
I like
come
it,
hang
brother.
out with us in Baltimore, man. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a
Yeah.
blast.
No,
Yeah.
I definitely like it. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, well, awesome. Well, I appreciate you all watching, listening, and don't forget, of course, to like, subscribe. It does help the algorithm out. Leave a comment so that Jeff and I know that someone was out there listening in on it. It does help the channel. But I believe we are good to conclude our discussion with Jeff Elkins, aka the Dialogue Doctor. So remember, nothing is wasted. Thanks for watching.